Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jorvik, and this is Fandom Friendly episode number 6. And today, I'm joined with fellow YouTuber and friend, Madam Arm slash Amanda. How are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. How are you doing?
I'm just peachy, you know.
Just PG, yeah.
Yeah, we're recording in the morning, and well, it's late morning for me because I think am I 2 hours or no? I'm an hour ahead of you. I think.
Yeah, it's about 10:22 here.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so like I mentioned, you are a YouTuber. You also do reaction content.
Yeah.
But you're also an actress.
Yes.
And I don't know if you've done a lot of acting recently, but when we first met, you were doing stage theater and as well as on-screen acting. So we'll dive into
Mm-hmm.
that a little bit later. But before we do, let's just introduce yourself. Talk about yourself, your experience, and we'll go from
Yeah.
there.
Okay. Yeah. Like Jorvik said, I'm Madam Arm is my YouTube channel. My real name's Amanda. Um, Currently on YouTube, I'm doing reaction content mostly to sci-fi television. Um, I just finished the first season of Westworld. I also just finished the first season of Fallout, which will be up on YouTube on Friday. Doing
Nice,
12
nice.
Monkeys. I've done a couple movie reactions. Surprisingly, I did The Magnificent Seven
Yeah, the
from
original one, right?
yeah, the original one from
Yeah.
1960, and I was surprised by how well that's been doing on YouTube. It's got like over 400 views right now.
Yeah,
Which yeah,
sorry to cut you off, but it is interesting. Like, we're small YouTubers. We're less than a
yeah.
thousand.
Mhm.
So this video will probably get at least 10 views. So we got that. But
Yeah.
it is interesting, like what video? Because I think you have a couple videos that are over 1,000 views.
Yeah, I do.
It is
They're both,
interesting, like the videos that kind of just take, you know, and
yeah, that they just take on a life of their own or something. Yeah, both my ones that are over 1,000 views are Fallout reactions. I think the Ghouls has episode 4. The Ghouls has 1,000 views, and the first episode of the series has over 3,000 views.
nice. Yeah, I think I only have my Snow White react. So when D23 was going on a couple months ago, I did a few
Yeah.
videos covering that, specifically like the Marvel Star Wars stuff. But my Snow White trailer reaction video, that one just kind of took off too. I mean, I think it's at like 800 something, but it's
Dang.
still, yeah. But I still think it's like it's just interesting. I think because there's a lot of controversy surrounding that film. Uh,
Yeah.
I think people just wanted to see a lot of different perspective. And plus, I look like the guy that gets upset with woke stuff, but I assure you I'm
Yeah.
not. And if you've seen any of my videos, you know that I support women.
Yeah. You're not just some grifting redneck type, no.
Yeah, just because I'm from the South doesn't mean I act like it. I
It was kind of surprising that the Magnificent Seven of the 3 uploads. Granted, it was the only one that didn't get immediately a copyright claim against it when I uploaded it, because I uploaded the Westworld season finale, the Westworld movie, and Magnificent Seven all in the same day, and that was the only one that didn't get a claim against it. So that may have helped, but I was still like, whoa, it just
yeah,
was doing really
was
well.
it your Westworld one that because you also did so the other movie you're talking about you did the Westworld film from like the 60s, was that or
1973. Yeah.
70s? Yeah, yeah. What a great time for it's like that, like Planet of the Apes, 2001, like that era of film, like sci-fi films, is really. I mean, you can argue. I mean, it is like the beginning of the sci-fi genre a little bit.
Yeah. It's
I
like
mean,
as much as there was like yeah, as much as there was like movies in 40s, 50s, early 60s that were sci-fi, those movies that you just listed took a giant leap forward.
oh
Like
yeah,
if you look at yeah, movies like I don't know what was that movie, the Braid Without a Body or something like that from
Mm,
the 50s.
yeah,
It's like
yeah, yeah.
super B
Wasn't
movie.
there was the one with the giant ants? I remember. They're called
Yeah.
like Them or something like that. Like you have like all of those like B, C like movie like Toxic Avenger I think was from that era. That one's a deep
Yeah,
cut.
Toxic Avenger might have been from the 80s, but that was
That might be
Trauma.
from
So
the 80s. Let me pull it. Let
yeah,
me
but it's
see.
Trauma, so of course it seems like a B movie.
Let me look up and see when the first Toxic Avenger was. Okay, yeah, yeah. So it was 1984. I don't know why I thought it was earlier than that.
Yeah, I guess because it's just so weird, but
Yeah, maybe because it's like if you see. So we another channel that we watch together is or we don't watch together. We used to watch it together when
mhm,
we lived in the same town. What is Good Bad or Bad Bad? That
mhm,
you showed me, and
yeah,
you see all the time those movies that they watch. It looks like they're like, oh, this film came out in like 2013, but it looks like it's from the late 90s. I
yeah,
think that's probably why I'm like, oh, in 1984 it was current, but the equipment they were using made it look like it's from the 60s.
yeah. That's definitely true.
What's the other one? There's just so many great B movies. I would love to go back and watch a bunch of them for sure.
Um,
Isn't one of the Little Shop of Horrors is from like the 50s, right? The first one,
yeah, I believe it's from the 50s. If not, it's like super early 60s. That was made on like a couple days shoestring budget.
1960.
Mm.
Yeah, wasn't it shot like over a weekend? I think we looked
Yeah,
into that.
yeah, it was
Just
shot like over a weekend.
it's so nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done it. I've
Roger
done that
Corman.
before. Cool. So, let's get back into what we were discussing, and that is how we originally met. And that is, uh, I moved to Washington. We'll just say that. We won't say
Mhm.
exactly where, but I moved to Washington, and I that's when I really kind of started my filmmaking journey. And
Mhm.
we kind of met through the film industry there, the small industry. I like that the what I liked about that town. I don't know if it's still popping. It might be, but the film industry in that town we lived in, I thought was really good for a small-ish. I mean, that town wasn't small, but for a
Yeah,
medium-sized town, that wasn't a
small
city. I
city.
thought it
Yeah.
was, yeah, I thought it was really good, really encouraging, really inviting, and that's how we met. Was through that. I had casted you in a project, and
Yeah.
that project didn't work out, which is fine. It happens, but but uh, but from there, like we did a lot of acting stuff there, I guess, and
Yeah.
that's kind of going into the topic of today. Is that you are a theater kid? I think where you
Mhm.
you were a theater kid first, right?
Well, mostly because there was no way like in the town I was growing up in that I was going to be like making films.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, other than like some class projects that I made, which maybe at some point I can show those to you. Um, but I did some theater things because so to give some background and go way back. Um, I went to a K through 8 school before I got to high school. And at that K through 8 school, they used to do an all school musical
Oh,
every single
interesting.
year. And by all school, I mean the kindergartners through fifth graders would be like on the risers and they would be the chorus. And the actual play on the stage would be done by middle schoolers.
Yeah, the
So
older kids.
yeah, sixth, seventh, and eighth got to actually be the actors and have solos. Um, and they also got to choose because it would be an elective too, leading up to the production. So you would be taking a class that was like drama, sets, props, or production. So the actual like lights and sound aspect of it.
Yeah.
Um, and the first couple years that I was there, they were still doing the every single year one. And then after I was in first grade and they did Tom Sawyer, they switched over to doing it every other year because it was too much to try to do that every single year.
Yeah, because you grew up in a small town, right?
Yeah, very small town.
A small little mountain
Roughly
town.
600 to 700 people. Yeah.
Yeah. They're
Um,
like, the budget for this is more than the budget we get for the police. We need to figure something out.
yeah, yeah, especially since it's like it took up so much when I finally got to middle school. I ended up being on a year where we only got to do one as opposed to like when my
Hmm.
sister's in middle school, she got to do it in sixth and eighth grade, and I landed where I only got to do it because I was in seventh.
Mm.
Um, but when I did it, we did the Jungle Book, and
The Jungle Book.
that yeah, the Jungle Book Junior, um, and it did take up a good chunk of time because it was starting like second. We had trimesters at that school instead of semesters or quarters. And it was second trimester, which kind of started like in December, like early December was when it would start.
Hmm.
Uh, and that was our elective, like reaching up to it. And then it was like it carried over because it was a spring production. We still had a few weeks of not doing our spring electives because we were so busy trying to get that together in the end. And I can see why that would take up a chime of like the academic year where they're like, we can't do this every single year. Um, but I was in the Jungle Book Junior. I had one line, and it was at the very end of the show.
You're
And
like
we
the kid in you're like the kid in band who percussion. He just goes at the end of the song.
just hits the little triangle at the end.
Yeah, the
Um,
ding.
yeah, and
What was your line? Do you remember?
it was Shanti, Shanti, where are you? You know you're not supposed to play in the jungle. Is the little girl Shanti?
Yeah,
She's the
yeah.
one like at the end got the like thing, the little jug on her head. She plays a little bit of a bigger part in the stage production, but her mom is supposed to be like a voice off
You're
stage.
just a
But they
voice
wanted
off
me to sit
stage.
off. Yeah, they wanted me to sit off to the side, and there was a whole big deal about figuring out a costume for me because like one didn't fit right. We wanted to make sure like my bra wasn't showing and all this and that. And then the person who was filming it didn't even turn the camera to me when I my
All that work for nothing.
yeah. It was well, to be fair, the person filming it was the father of the guy playing Mowgli. I guess he was just focused on his son.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, that tracks. Yeah.
Yeah.
That tracks for
And then
sure.
yeah. And then when I was in high school, I signed up for drama to be
Hmm.
like my art elective, and I signed up for that like in eighth grade when we were doing our thing getting ready for high school, and it was like signing up early to get our classes, and I didn't get it that year. And then I had signed up for it sophomore year, and then I noticed like it had been taken off my thing when we were like finalizing our schedules, and it said I needed to fill out another thing. And I was like, why? And they were like, our drama program is no more. We no longer have a drama program. Not enough
Dang.
funding and not enough interest.
You're like, but it's
Um,
me. I'm the interest. I signed up for it.
yeah, exactly. And there were people who were interested because the next year, the person who had been one of the drama teachers, she was my AVID teacher, which, if you don't know what AVID is, it stands
Mm,
for Advancement via Individual Determination. It's a class that's like a college prep program.
yeah, we had
And
something
kind
similar. It was called uh gosh, I've sort of repressed high school, but I'm trying to
of,
remember what I think it was just AP. I think it was just the AP program.
oh yeah, AP, Advanced
Yeah.
Placement stuff.
Yeah, something like that. We didn't have a cool
Yeah,
name for it, cool acronym for it.
yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, AP is its own thing,
Yeah.
um, because an AP has been around. I'm not sure how long Avid's been around. I'd have to look that up. I'm sure I knew at one
Mm.
point. I know AP has been around at least since like late '80s, I believe.
Yeah, AP
Um,
I think is just like the standard like national cuz like I don't think we had cuz I went to probably a much bigger high school than you did.
yeah, I'm sure.
Like when I was in school, I remember our theater department, I don't know if I told you this, but our theater department one year did Chicago, which
Mm,
was like a big deal at the time cuz
wow.
of how like I mean, I've never seen Chicago, but I know it's like for high school at least, it's pretty risque, I guess.
Yeah.
But it was like a big
Our
deal that they were doing Chicago, and I can't remember any of the other plays or the shows that they did. I did try to sign up because I was in band. I did try to sign up for tech theater, which you mentioned.
mm,
It's doing all the texture, the lighting, and all that kind of stuff like that. Because even back then, I probably mentioned this in one of my filmmaking videos that I've done. That I've been into filmmaking since I was like a child. Like
mhm.
when, because we grew up at the time when DVDs really started were basically new.
Yeah.
And I remember I always try to beg my mom to get like the 2 disc like special edition,
Yeah. Yeah.
because then I would watch the entire special features on like how they made the film and stuff like that. So like it's always been in my mind. So
Mhm.
it's one of those things where it's like theater was it's just I call it the fourth dimension of entertainment, and it's just like one of those things where like I'm like, oh, this is how I could get into this, was doing the tech theater stuff, because I love how the stuff is made, and
Mhm.
plays are just basically just movies, they're just a different medium. But I think I wasn't allowed because I was already in band.
Oh.
They didn't allow me to do tech theater, which
Oh, that's
annoying. Yeah.
that is annoying. Like, what? You weren't allowed to double dip in the arts. You can only have one.
Yeah, yeah, we could only have one. And even then, like I was also, and I think I've mentioned this in other videos, but like I was in ROTC, like because I was going to go to the military, and
Oh
I
yeah.
was in the reserves. But in high school, they have ROTC, and I was in that, and band in that. They were like, well, you can't go and do practice because you have to come to our practice. And it's like, oh, but the football players get to go to practice and then come back here, so what's the difference,
Mm,
it was the whole thing.
mhm.
So but yeah, so
Yeah.
I didn't really dabble. Well, after sophomore year, I think I left our fine arts building, and I never went back until
Oh,
I did started filmmaking again. Fun
yeah.
stuff.
Well, here's the funny thing. You mentioned Chicago. Our rival high school, um, was the exact opposite when it came to theater. That was huge for them. They had like they would have like a full season schedule. It wouldn't be like, oh, we have
What?
maybe a fall thing and a spring thing. It would be like 5 things in a year that they would do every
They're
year.
like, this is the beginning of school play. This is the isn't that weird? I feel like I think that's a thing people don't talk about. Like there's always one school in your district that just it's like they are the school that gets to do everything. Like
Hmm.
even when I was in band, when we would go to football games and our music shows and stuff like that, like we would have cool music, but not as cool as like the other schools, right? Like
Yeah.
there was always like one school that, because I remember my freshman year, it was right, it was like 2 years after the new reboot of Star Trek came out,
Mm.
and the score and sound or the score in Star Trek is incredible. And I was like, this would be perfect for a show. And I try to go to my band directors like, hey, we should do this. Like I think this song is really good, and I think it's perfect for this. They're like, no, 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 we can't do it. Costs too much. Blah blah blah. Can't do it. And then after I quit, the year after I quit, they did that. They did the Star Trek show,
Oh, of
and
course.
I was so upset. But it's
I,
fine. It's whatever.
our high school, our band was pretty cool. I wish I could have done band in high school too. I only did it in middle school. Um, but it's just like there's a lot of like costs and just like so many things to try and do extracurriculars in high
Yeah.
school as was compared to in middle school. Um, but our band is kind of interesting. It went through some transitions for sure, like early on because I know there was some drama involving a teacher who,
Oh yeah, I had that too.
yeah, either like resigned or got let go, and there was some weird things going on, some shady dealings, I guess. Um, and then we got a replacement for like maybe the last chunk of the year, and then there was the guy who was just there the rest of the time. But
Yeah.
they were always like doing cool music. Like he really liked film scores. He really liked
Yeah.
John Williams scores. So there was a lot of Star Wars that would be playing
Mm.
at pep assemblies.
Yeah, I remember one of our. I don't know what it wasn't a pep rally. I don't remember what it was, but it was the orchestra, not like like because like band and orchestra separate, but it was orchestra like with horns and strings,
Yeah.
and they did Lord of the Rings for something, and I
Oh.
can't remember what it was, and it was just c'est magnifique. Oh my gosh, I love it. I loved it. But yeah, movie scores, man. I think I that's what I listen to most is movie
Hmm.
scores, probably. That and
There's some
like
great movie scores.
the Lumineers. I know. I think I've been listening to. I haven't listened to any movie scores recently, but I think the last one, what was it? It wasn't it wasn't Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer is a great score. I was listening to I went to Kansas. Was that
Mhm.
last weekend? Or the weekend before? And on the like on road trips especially, I'll throw on movie scores or whatever, because then I'd just be like, and I was listening to Pirates of the Caribbean and How to Train Your Dragon and
Oh,
all that kind of stuff like that. Great. I should do a video on like my top movie scores. I
yeah,
think that would be
definitely.
interesting.
Music is such a powerful thing, and it can
It is.
it really, yeah, it's why it's such a useful tool to go with other things like movies and it, it's funny because like when you start to really know a score of a movie, not this past week, but the week before, I saw Beetlejuice
Mm.
in theaters 2 days in a row because I went with my friends the first day, and then the next day I went with my boyfriend because he couldn't make it the night before.
Right.
Um, and there's this scene at the end where it's a dream, and it's kind of going kind of in this floaty slow motion, and I'm listening to it, and immediately I recognize that music, and I'm like, that's from the original score of the 1976 Carrie. And I was
Oh,
like,
interesting.
yeah, like I recognized that music right away. It's like the theme of Carrie. And it happens at a few pivotal points in the movie. So I was just like, this is a dream and something terrible is going to happen at the end.
Yeah, I haven't seen Beetlejuice. I've never seen the original actually,
Oh,
and
I love it.
I think it was one of those movies because like this is like weird. Like I'm into horror films, but I'm not like into horror film. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Like I'll
I
watch
get
them,
you.
but I'm not like a diehard horror person.
Yeah.
And I think as a kid, I was like terrified of anything. Like I was afraid of like Halloween and like shit
Hmm.
like that.
Same.
And I think it's just one of those films that like I saw people like reference. When did that movie come out? That was what, early 90s, late 80s?
That was
The original one?
1988.
Yeah.
1988, yeah.
But I remember like that was a movie that like I had seen like very little of, and I don't know. It's just
Mhm.
one of those. I was just like, that's. Nah. I'm like, nah, I'm good.
To be
Not me.
fair, I didn't see it until I was 23 because I remember it would be on TV a lot, and every single time I was like, I'm not watching that. My mom was like, well, it's really not that scary. I'm like, nope, not watching it, not
Nope.
watching it.
You're like, but that's Batman. You're like, I don't care. Not watching it.
Well, it's funny because like even with Batman, like I saw Batman and Batman Returns when I was a very small kid.
Hmm.
However, I think I saw Batman Returns more. However, there were parts where I was just like, will not watch, and it was anything involving the Penguin when I was a kid. He terrified me.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, because there's a couple scenes in that where, because Danny DeVito is so grotesque in that film. Like he's like
Yeah,
bleeding like black fluid and like he's
yeah,
disgusting.
yeah.
He's
He peels
disgusting
up
in
that
that film.
reporter's breast.
Oh yeah, he just casually assaults people the whole movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Have you watched the new Penguin show?
Haven't yet. I was thinking about making a reaction to that.
Yeah. I did my reaction video for it. The first episode's like an hour and like 6 minutes. I think it's HBO. You know, they have long.
That's HBO. Yeah, they'd make some of their episodes movie length.
I know, but it's so good. If you haven't watched the Batman, the film,
I
um,
have.
okay, yeah. So it picks up
I
like
love
a
it.
week. It's like a week after uh
Oh, okay.
that movie. So it just goes in, and it is, they do not hold back. It's great, actually.
Oh,
So
good. I
yeah,
loved the Batman. That was such a
yeah.
great film.
That is my favorite Batman movie ever. Like
Mine
I'm
too.
sorry,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like I think just because like I like the Nolan films, you know, and I
Yeah.
think they were what we needed for that time period, you know.
Mhm.
And I have a soft spot for like the Schumacher films, you know, because like Batman and Robin, the one with George Clooney and is it Chris O'Donnell, they
Yeah.
that is like a guilty pleasure film for me because that movie came out, you know, we were like 1 or 2 when that movie came out. So
Yeah.
that's the one I grew up with, was that one. And I was like, this is cool. I like Batman and Robin. And then I would watch the other ones. But no, the Batman I think is the best. Is the best Batman, live action Batman period.
Yeah,
Not gonna.
absolutely. Like my opinion goes that it is it's my favorite, and I think that the Christopher Nolan films stand as being really great films,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like great films that Batman happens to be in, and
Right.
it's very Chris Nolanified
Yeah,
as
I would agree. I think those are good films just like for the time. Like
mhm,
I do think like The Dark Knight, the second one of those films, I think is also a really good Batman film. But
mhm.
that's also not a Batman film. That's a Joker film. So it's
Yeah.
like in it's the same thing with uh Ben Affleck as Batman. I think Ben Affleck's Batman physically, I think great Batman. You know, he
Mhm.
was just in dog shit movies, unfortunately.
Yeah. I
It's
haven't even
really,
seen those ones yet.
yeah.
I just
I do like I like I do like Batman versus Superman, but only the extended like version of it. It's like an extra 30 minutes and it just fills out the movie a little bit better than the theatrical,
mhm.
because the theatrical version makes no sense. You're like, what the hell is going on? Like, and then like scenes are cut and then like you watch the extended version, you're like, oh, okay. You know, it's
Mm,
still not a great film, but like it's a better film, I
a
guess. It's
better
just like
one.
the Zack Snyder's Justice League is a better Justice League film than the theatrical one. But we're getting
Yeah.
off topic. So let's get we went off on a tangent a little bit there. You know what happens with
Yeah.
these
I
types of
was gonna
things.
finish up my theater spiel.
Yeah. We'll finish up your theater
Yeah.
spiel and then we'll get into how you got into on-screen acting.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah. So by the time my sophomore year rolled around, we didn't have the drama program, but my avid teacher had formerly been the drama teacher, and some other people in my class had come to her saying that they wanted to start a drama club, and she had a connection to the director at our rival school. And they're
Mm,
really mostly rivals on the basis of they used to all be at the same school and then it split off, and we both kept the same mascots and same school colors, but like they fight
interesting.
against each other. Yeah, during like the opening season of like football and stuff. But that being said, she got him to do a conjoined production with both their students and students from our school of the play Almost Maine, which I was going to audition for, and then something happened that day, and I was just like, I just can't even. I wasn't feeling good and stuff. I couldn't
Yeah.
go in. Um, and then the following year, they did it again, the same kind of thing, and it was a production of Anne Frank. And
Oh, interesting. I didn't
again, I
know
wanted
she
to,
had a play. I
yeah,
guess that, I mean, that makes sense.
there's a play of the Diary of Anne Frank, and I was going to audition for that as well, but then something different came up, and I couldn't do that. But then there came the connection to a local youth theater company that the district wanted him to do a K through 12 show. So all the schools in the district, from kindergarten up through 12th grade, would be able to participate in, and it would be done at the high school. And that was of Willy Wonka. And I was asked if I wanted to do a stage crew for that for community service hours, because we used to have this thing at my high school that part of your graduation requirement was that you would have these community service hours that you documented.
Oh, interesting.
Um, yeah,
Thankfully, my
and
school
funny
didn't
enough,
have that because no one would
yeah,
have graduated.
well, funny enough, then is like I went and I did all that, and then that spring they said that actually they were taking that away as a requirement for my class, and we didn't have to. But I still got a cord at graduation because I had well over the amount that I needed for community
Right,
service
right.
hours. So they were
Yeah.
like, that was a pretty special achievement. However, I used that as it was going to be part of my senior project was doing, and you could do your senior project your junior year. But my senior project was going to be working on Willy Wonka. So I spent so many hours after school painting sets, learning different sides of the production. And then
Hmm.
when it came down to, we did 2 weekends worth of the show. So it was like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday for 2 weeks in a row once it came up. And this was after a couple months of doing Willy Wonka. So I was going backstage for them, and it was so fun. I loved doing stage tech for them. And then the company that summer was doing, um, and they were also doing it at the high school and using that as the little theater house. And because they would go, that company always switched between that and my rival school because they were technically based in that town.
Right.
Um, yeah. They were doing the Music Man. And so I was a stage check for that summer. And then I caught wind while I was working on the Music Man that that fall they were going to be doing another K through 12 production for the district, and it was going to be of The Wizard of Oz. And I was like, I need to be in that, and not just a
You're
stage
like,
tech. I
I
want to
want to
be in it.
be in that. Yeah. Is the Music
Yeah,
Man? Is that a musical? I'm assuming.
yeah. The Music Man is a musical.
Oh, it was
It's
also surprisingly a film.
yeah, it's been a film twice actually.
Yeah, I can see that. Huh.
um, Yeah, I very much like the Music Man, but Wizard of Oz, I was like, and I don't mean just a stage tech because stage techs are important and I love doing the stage work, but I was like, I want to act in it. I've been wanting to act this whole time. I need to get into the Wizard of Oz, and I did get into the Wizard of Oz,
Nice.
and I was cast as Auntie M. Um, so I was the
Okay, yeah. I
older
had to think
aunt
for a
in the
second. I was
show.
like, wait, who is that?
Yeah.
It's been so long
Oh,
since I've seen The Wizard of Oz.
yeah.
Another Pioneer
Um,
film.
Yes, their Pioneer film, and one of the first films that I have vivid memory of watching. Um, but
You,
it's
you
funny
know,
because then they
sorry to cut you
what?
out. To this day, I don't think I've ever seen that film all the way through.
Really?
Yeah, it's funny because like as a filmmaker, you would think that. See, in my mind, there are two different types of filmmakers. There are the filmmakers who are like the film purists, and you probably have met a lot of those people, where they're just like, actually, my favorite film is like Citizen Kane, or like they're like, well, my favorite, it's they've seen like every major movie, and they're just like, well, yeah, they're like, well, the golden age of film is or like Hollywood sucks now and I'm gonna change, like those people. And then you have
Mhm.
like me who is just like, dude, I just like shooting stuff, man. I don't like there's a lot of movies I haven't seen, even Casablanca. I remember the first production company I was with when I was, oh gosh, 19, 20. It was one of the founder of that one. She's like, oh well, she was one of those like, oh, like purist filmmakers. She goes, well, you got to watch this and this. And I was
And
like,
I think it is a
okay.
good idea to watch
Yeah, yeah,
things,
yeah.
like especially things of the past, whether or not they're your favorite film. You can see the value in how
Yeah, no, I
like
agree.
you
I
can learn
agree.
things.
Yeah. Cuz like I think the difference is for like me specifically and like the people that I'm talking about is that the people that I'm talking about went to film school, or they like they took those film appreciation classes. So it's like, to them it's like this is cinema. And to me, I'm all self-taught. So it's just like, well, I like this movie. I'm just going to like just pick apart that movie, And it's like Christopher Nolan, for example, one of my favorite directors. And when I was learning screenwriting, again, all self-taught, when I was learning, I would print out scripts to his films and I would read the script as I watched the film. That way I could see, okay, this is how they translate, you know, this scene to screen, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's basically how I learned. And so for me, it's not like, oh, like I watched Casablanca, but I don't think it's a great movie. I mean, obviously that film is from what, the 20s or 30s, whenever it
No,
was.
it's from like the 50s.
The Casablanca? No way. It is
20s
definitely
would be
old.
like silent era.
No, no. 1942.
Okay. Oh,
Or is
excuse
that?
me. That's,
I
I
knew
was
it
more
was
after
old.
the 20s.
I'm getting off a tangent. But what I'm saying is like you can watch those films, learn from them, obviously, because they, there are pioneer film. I mean, like you look at Wizard of
Yeah.
Oz, like we were just saying. Wizard of Oz was that the first movie that was in color, Technicolor?
Not the first, but it was one of the earliest, and it was definitely one of the best examples of using color in a film at that time.
Or was it Sound of Music
Especially
that
with
was
that.
the first thing?
No, Sound of Music is 1965.
I don't
It's
see.
like way into color.
I don't even fucking remember. That's the
No, like
first.
the first color films were probably like even silent films where they painted the frames, like they used actual paint
Mm-hmm.
on the frame. Um,
God, dude,
but Technicolor,
I hate how Google gives like AI shit at the top of the.
yeah. I mean, like
Just,
Wizard of Oz isn't the first, but it's one of the most remembered because also they played the expectation that it was not going to be in color. And then when you did it, it was one of the most vibrant uses of Technicolor at that time.
yeah, I think it was the first like specific like the version of like what we perceive as colored film. I think is what it, because it says here that the first color movie was a short film in 1908, which okay, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it was, and again, it was probably like they painted on the frames.
Maybe I should go to
Um,
film school. Shit, at least take a film appreciation class.
yeah. Oh, I think the thing about that is like it's also really good. Even if you decide I'm going to write and direct in a certain genre because
Mm-hmm.
it's my favorite thing, it's what I'm drawn to. I
All
think
right.
it's a really good idea to like have a wide wealth of what you watch and read and take in
Oh,
because
I agree fully. I when I work with newer writers, especially, um, a lot of the times I say like, hey, like for me, like I write sci-fi, I write
Mhm.
action, military, like because I write what I know,
Yeah.
and it's like you can just stick to, like you said, you can just stick to those. But if you want to be a good writer, you want to be a good director, you want to be a good actor, actress, you want to dabble in all of these different genres, right? Because like
Hmm.
look at comedic actors, for example, comedians. They'll
Hmm.
do comedies for 20 years of their career, and then they'll do one like dramatic piece, and you're like, damn, like that they have
Yeah.
some drama in them, and it's like, yeah, I mean, you don't limit yourself for sure. I mean, it's the same thing with acting. When I started 917 a few years ago. Well, shoot, that was, I guess technically that was when I was in Washington, so more than a few years
5 years
ago,
ago. Yeah.
5 or 6 years ago. When I would work with other actors and actresses, and we probably talked about this too. I think when you do as an actress, and we'll dive into your screen acting here in a bit. As an actor, you have self tapes. You audition with, or you have, you know, your backstage profile, or your profile, Instagram, whatever. And you
Mhm.
have monologues, in different genres. One where you're crying, one where you're being dramatic, one where you're angry. It just kind of helps showcase all the different, your different skill sets when what that people look for when they're casting. Uh,
Yeah.
so so your theater time, you did Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Um, how how did that go?
It went really well. I mean, looking back, there's things now,
Yeah,
as
yeah,
an adult who is acting that I'm like, oh, that probably could have been a little bit better
yeah,
or a
yeah.
little bit
Yeah, like
whatever. Like,
the first things you do aren't always going to be, Oscar worthy, or what's
yeah,
the theater
definitely.
one, Tony worthy. Uh
Tony, yeah.
so it's like, I mean, like, even my stuff, like, I found one of my original scripts I written when I was 19, and I read through it. I'm like, Jesus, what the hell is this? I was like, I wrote like this. I wrote like, even my photography too. Like, the first, like, portraits I took, like, in almost a decade ago. I'm just like, wow, these are not good. But there, it's just, you learn as you go on. So when did you start getting into, like, because when we met we were, what, 21, 22. We were in our early
Yeah,
20s.
yeah.
And so technically not that long after high school. So when did you start getting into screen acting, and
Well, here,
how did you change up the way you acted going into that?
yeah. Okay, that's a great question because honestly, the screen was always the reason I wanted to be an actor. Like,
Hmm.
I loved watching TV growing up. Like, I would have my TV shows that I would be obsessed with, and I would get obsessed with like certain actors on them, and I was like, I want to like observe what they do and learn about them. And I just thought it just seemed like such a fun career. Like, I was like, you get to be in kind of this imaginary world for work where you get to be someone totally different with totally different trauma,
Hmm.
and then you get to walk away and it doesn't actually affect you personally, and you probably have a nice adult life outside of it, um where I don't know, it just seemed really appealing to me. And I liked being different characters and stuff. So I was like, I want to be on a TV show and in movies when I grow up. Like, I just thought that would, and it wasn't about I want to be famous or anything like that. I was just like, I want that to be my career. Even if
Yeah.
I have a side career or something else I'm doing, I want that to be something I can pursue. Um, Maybe not even like all the time, but at least sometimes.
Yeah, something on the side where you're just like, oh yeah, I occasionally just act and stuff, not that big of a deal. You can just brag
Yeah.
to people. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think with the rise, do you think that with the rise of social media, it's been easier for people to break into not just the acting industry, but just the film entertainment industry as a whole? And
Mm,
like, because, like, I don't know if you're on, like, TikTok or any of that stuff. 'Cause I mean, I'm not. I just see them stuff filtered to me. But
yeah.
do you watch any of, like, the acting stuff that people post on there, or have you seen
And,
any of those?
sometimes, but not really from my own volition that I've
Right,
sought
right.
it out or anything. I'm not a big TikTok person.
Yeah, neither am
Um,
I.
uh, yeah. However, to answer your question about whether or not it's been easier, I would say yes and no. Because with the rise of social media, it's like it just adds another thing to the equation where
Right.
there's just so much saturation of stuff now. It's harder to pick through it. It kind of is similar to how, back in the day when there was just like a few channels or and only certain people had cable, it was more of a cultural thing where we all kind of saw the same things. And then when
Yeah.
we were growing up, it was less so, and now I think it's even less so
Yeah,
for
because it's
kids
like
today. Like,
there's so much. I mean, like, you look at YouTube, for example, right?
mhm,
Like, the early days of YouTube, I mean, there's only like a few channels that were big back in the late thousands that are still
Mhm.
even around today. And it's like, and for a long time, the industry didn't even acknowledge YouTube and its creators. And like, I mean, like, look at us. Like, you're right. Like, it's so saturated. I mean, here we are recording a podcast when there's, because of the pandemic, there is 2 million podcasts out there in the world.
Yeah.
And the same thing is that we're also reaction content creators. So it's like,
Hmm.
react to TV and stuff like that. And it's like that market's already saturated. And then when you look at like just creators in general, filmmaking in general as well, a lot of people get their start on YouTube making short films and all that kind of stuff like that. People act, I mean, how many short films did you do for free just because during college and all that kind of stuff like that? And it's like a
Yeah.
lot of it is just there's just so much access now, and with even with you don't even need a camera, like oops, like I have this is just a basic 4K camera, nothing crazy, like, but my phone can shoot probably better footage than this camera, and everyone
Yeah.
has one of these. And they're just going to keep getting better, and it's like everyone, like, the barrier to entry, I feel like, is a lot easier, but also at the same time to break into the industry is a lot harder because of that saturation. And acting's no
Yeah.
different. I mean, there's just so much out there. I mean,
Hmm.
how do you stand out, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Because with that saturation, yeah, it's harder for people to break into the industry in kind of more of quote unquote legit way where you're like
Right.
going through an agent and all that. But at the same time, it makes social media makes it so much easier for everyone to get out there in some way, whether they should really be out there or not.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a lot of
and like,
people I see, I'm just like, how these people have no shame? Like, just like I would never post anything like this. Like, it's crazy. But a lot of it now is for the shock value. It's for the clout, right? It's
yeah,
you see stuff all the time of like gender reveal parties, and it's like, oh, like, it's like every single one of them they try to one up each other, and then people die or they start forest fires, and it's like it's just like crazy stuff, and same thing with like the
oh
prank
my God.
channels. I think prank channels are dumb, like
Yeah,
just low effort. Oh,
they
and
should be abolished. They're
yeah, my,
terrible.
my my favorite form of content is the dude talking to women with like a little lav mic going like, so what do you think about like men? And they're like, men suck. And he's like, yeah. And then I'm like, why? Like, it's just so low effort. And then you have people like, like us and like our other friends who are creators in their own right in different ways just struggle, you know,
Yeah,
to even get views. And like it's
yeah.
just really annoying, I think.
Yeah, and I know people like to really pick on reaction content, and usually when they're talking about reaction content, they seem to not think about the creators that do reactions to TV shows. They just think about the people who are like doing TikTok reactions or
Right.
whatever. I don't know.
I've done a
And
couple TikTok videos, but
yeah,
not like
but I
it's
mean,
not
I
like
think
the main like
the main thing to
content on
do,
my channel. Yeah.
yeah, uh, it is. People like to pick on it and say it's lazy, but I think it's only lazy if you don't contribute anything to it other than going, oh, uh-huh,
You're like, "Oh, like haha,
yeah,
that was a funny scene." Yeah. Like, have you seen
yeah,
those videos, there's a type of reaction content I've seen, and it's like someone's watching it and they're just like, "Oh, okay, so they're just going to do this?" Oh, okay, cool.
mm,
All right. So they're just doing, like, they're just narrating what they're seeing. And I'm just like,
yeah, it's like the
that's not the
sniper
same
wolf kind of
thing.
thing. Yeah,
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 and it's like it's just so that to me I feel is lazy, because like what we do, we have knowledge of the industry to an extent.
yeah,
So, when we're reacting to stuff, or when I do like a filmmaking video, I can add my 2 cents to it, and
hmm,
and it's just that to me I think is a lot better. And it's like the people that I do watch, you know, they're, especially like the superhero stuff, they're comic guys,
yeah,
and so like they know the source material, so like their knowledge of the source material, when they're reacting to some of the stuff that, I appreciate that because it's like, oh, okay. You could just watch a trailer and be like, oh, yeah, that was cool. Maybe I'll see it. I don't know. And then just move on. But it's like, no, I think this is where the story's going because there's precedent in the comics and, you have this and like this character is
Yeah.
important because like that's the knowledge I seek and that's the entertainment value I guess I get out of this type of
Yeah,
content. So,
exactly. Because I want to hear what someone thinks about something, not
right,
just like you
right.
just seem like you barely cared about what you watched. Like, I love stories, so I want to analyze what's happening in the story, where I think it's going to go,
Hmm.
what I felt when I watched it. Um, and that's why I think reaction content is worthwhile. I mean, it's not the only thing I want to do. I do want eventually want to do like
Yeah.
reviews and essays as well. But I
Hmm.
think reaction content, especially since it's, I noticed reaction channels at first when it was 2020 and I had just
Yeah, it's when they
watched,
really, really took off. Yeah.
yeah, because I had just watched in lockdown, I had watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer and the spinoff Angel all within a month.
Hmm.
And then I wanted to see what other people felt when they watched it. And so that's kind of actually how I got my inspiration, was watching Buffyverse content reactors. And that's how I got my idea to do it. And I tried starting it up in 2020, like I was filming things, but I just didn't have the right equipment, so everything looked and
Yeah.
sounded like crap,
And
and
plus,
I
and,
couldn't
and it
use
was
it.
also extra hard too because everyone, it's like you couldn't buy a mic, you couldn't buy a webcam because everyone was buying one because they were working from home. Or, people are like, oh, well, I guess I'm going to start a podcast. So, and so like it was really hard the first, like, 2020 to really like get stuff, not just because the supply chain shut down, but because everyone is buying the same thing, you're trying to buy too.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
But yeah, and then it's like you get like and this isn't just like sour grapes or anything, like we're just jealous of everyone else, but it's
yeah.
true. It's like when you get like people who get viral fame, um
Like the Hawk
and
Tui girl. She has her own
not
podcast
doing
now. Like it and it's just so sad. Like she had one viral moment. She got like a modeling deal or something. Got like an agent. Now she has like a podcast. It's called Talk Tui, by the way. It's actually kind of a funny name.
oh my God.
Talk
Yeah, because
Tua.
it gets you attention and then people know who you are, and then it's so much easier for you to get things that other people have to work for. It's like when you see, was that shitty, I assume we're allowed to swear here because I know you
Yeah,
swear all the
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
That shitty She's All That remake called He's All That.
Oh,
It's like, and it
yeah,
had
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Addison Rae as the star, and I'm like, a TikTok person, like, and she can't act
I
at
know.
all.
That's another thing too. When you see all of these like these TikTok people, well, I guess it was Vine first, but I think she's from TikTok. But
Yeah.
when you saw like the Logan, like the Paul brothers and all that, and some of the other people for that were big on Vine, got like
Hmm.
deals, like show deals, and it's like, what? Why? First of all, they're not even funny. Second of all, it's like it's just because they're the hot thing, and
Yeah.
I don't even
Yeah, and
remember
it's like
he's all
people
that.
assume, like producers assume, well, they're popular, so we've got to get them in this to get views. But it's just like, but people also want to see people who have some talent in their
Right,
movie.
right, and you can also, I mean, that's for anything. I mean, look at I mean, look. Oh, okay. Just look at actors, for example. Look at Pedro Pascal. I love Pedro Pascal, but
Me
it's
too.
like he's been around for 20 years,
Mhm.
But it's like his big role started in Game of Thrones, and then
Mhm.
once he was in that for probably a season or two, and then like he did other things, not really popping off, but like once he did The Mandalorian,
Mhm.
he's been in everything. He's like
Yeah.
in like seven different things coming out. Like he's probably been in
Yeah.
four movies this year, and he has another one
Yeah.
coming out. And it's
Yeah,
like,
he's gonna be in Fantastic Four.
yeah, yeah. I'm still weirded out
You're
by
on the
that
fence about
casting
that
choice.
decision.
No, I think there's probably a better person to play Reed Richards. But from what I've seen and what people have seen, like of that they shot, like apparently I know he's a good actor. I know he can do it.
Yeah, of
It's
course.
just I don't know. We'll have to
Yeah,
see.
he's a little old for Reed Richards. Like at least from the Reed Richards that we've had in the past, the
Yeah,
few
yeah.
other times they've tried to do Fantastic
Well,
Four.
I think he's doing well. There are different like ages of Reed in the comics. It just depends on like what version of Reed are you doing? Because like if you do a younger version of Reed Richards, he's not a father. He's more of a hard scientist. He's very cold and calculating. You know that type of thing. And throughout like the years, as his relationship with Sue develops, you know they have children. He becomes more like open. He becomes Dad Reed Richards. And so it's like, and that's very different than early Reed Richards. So he's kind of playing in the middle. So, because allegedly their kids are supposed to be in this film, or at least mentioned. So he's already in that transition period. But again, I don't know. We'll have to see when it comes out next year, or at least when we get a full trailer. Probably, I would say probably February, maybe. We probably get that trailer because it's supposed to come out in
Yeah.
July, and I think Disney was talking about moving it to July 11th, which is the same day the new Superman movie comes out, which would be great for me because that's my birthday and I'll just go have a double feature.
Oh,
So
nice.
it'll be fine for me. But yeah, but I mean like even like Joseph Quinn too, you know, he had a big break in Stranger Things season 4
Yeah,
and
everyone loved Eddie.
yeah, and now he's in Gladiator 2. He was just in The Quiet Place. Was it day 1 or whatever? And then he's also going to be Johnny Storm in Fantastic Four. So you know, like it happens. Like you have like these viral stars, and they just get thrown into everything. And you know, if it sticks, it sticks. I mean, but that also happens you know, with music. I mean, music is the same way. You know, you'll have like one artist who just pops for some reason. I mean, like look at recently, like look at Chapel Roan. I had no idea who this girl was until like the last 2 weeks, and it's like she came
Yeah,
out of nowhere,
same.
even
And
though
I
she's
still haven't
been.
listened to anything she's made.
I don't know. Pink Pony Club is a bop, actually, uh, but
Maybe I'll
but
listen to it on my stream.
you've definitely heard it before, but but she's been around for a couple years, you know, and it's like at least from what I could see, and it's just like one of those things. Like Sabrina Carpenter is another one, another
Mm.
artist that recently just popped for some reason, even though she's been in the entertainment industry for decades. I mean, decades
Yeah,
for a
and an
decade.
actress too. Yeah.
Yeah, she was in like Phineas and Ferb. Like she was like a voice
Mhm.
actress for a lot of different Disney shows. So she's been in that realm, but it's like all of a sudden it's like boom, they're the big thing, and it's just crazy how that happens. So I don't know. I don't know. All right, so again we went off on another tangent. It happens. So let's kind of talk about so how many things like screen acting wise have you done? Because I know we've shot some stuff together.
Yeah.
um a lot of the stuff didn't really come to fruition, you know, besides one short film that we did together, and that's on my old YouTube channel. That's still available. I would love to reshoot it. I think we've talked about that before.
Yeah.
I would love to do a reshoot of that.
Yeah. I would love to remake that.
And I am pretty sure I sent you some scripts, some stuff I
Yeah.
wanna shoot coming in the coming years. I'm slowly rebuilding my network again, trying to find you know people because like we mentioned earlier, like you know you got into acting and film and all that because you didn't want to be famous, but you just love the art of it, right?
Mhm.
And it's the same thing for me too. Like I don't mind, you know, working a 12-hour day on set, you know, and it's just like a weekend thing and I'm not getting paid. Like that to me doesn't bother me because I love the art of filmmaking and doing all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I'm trying to think. Did so you had your so you actually made me act in one of your things.
Yeah,
And I want to talk
yeah,
about that because um, you did it for you were doing a directing class, if I remember, in
yes,
college, but it was
mhm,
specifically like stage directing,
yes.
or like show directing. And I did a scene with I guess one of your classmates. It was
She was a couple years younger than me, and I just found her out because somebody was like, she can do it, because I was searching for someone else to fill out the
yeah,
scene.
that's right. Okay,
Yeah,
I couldn't remember if she was like in your class or you just like a third part. I couldn't
yeah,
remember, but we did a scene from was it The Odd Couple?
yes,
Yeah.
the odd couple.
So I wanted to bring this up because it was one of the rare moments where this particular moment because we performed the scene in front of your class. It
Hmm.
wasn't a lot of people, but it was still like in front of what I don't know, like 20 people maybe.
Yeah,
So
20
again, so it
people.
wasn't like a lot of people, but it was my first time acting. Yeah, it was my first time acting, and my first time acting on like on stage, right? Because I never did any of that. I have done a few screen acting things, which I don't even know. Yeah, no, I was like, wait, have I? And I realized that I did a short film where I'm one of the main people in it.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring that up anyway. Like I said, because the stage acting and screen acting are two I feel are two completely different things, and they require different skills.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely.
So I kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit, and I think the biggest one for me, the challenge was actually speaking, because
Hmm.
being a screen actor, you're used to being mic'd up. So you don't
Hmm.
have to yell or talk, or talk very loudly. You can talk at a normal voice and your audio would be picked up. But with stage acting, you have to belt. so
Yes.
so was that
Yeah.
also a challenge for you? Or is it just me and I'm making a big deal out of
Yeah.
it?
No, I get you. It's definitely switching from one to the other is it can be difficult. Yeah, like you said, you have to be louder. In the theater, you are projecting, so your
Mm-hmm.
voice can be heard in the back row, and nobody's gonna ha ha.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've never necessarily had a problem with the idea of projecting my voice, though there are times where probably I could have. Like I'm currently in a play, and they keep getting the note of like everyone needs to
Speak up.
project more because
Oh,
some people are
jeez.
saying that
I just flipped
they're
my
saying
cord
that
up.
they couldn't catch every word. I don't feel like we're all projecting very well, so I'm like maybe some
Mm-hmm.
people just don't have good hearing. But
That's possible.
I yeah, I mean I've never had a problem with the idea of projecting. There are times where depending on the venue, I have definitely needed to work on my projection because even though my high school theater was a decent size, it had good stadium seating.
Mm-hmm.
It's not nearly as big as like the one at my college, and one
Right.
of the classes I took in college was was voice studio because like once you get up into these levels of acting, I only ever got to the 200 levels, but it was like acting studio, voice studio, movement studio. And in the voice studio, one of the things we did in the last couple weeks of the quarter was we went into our main stage theater and we had a partner, and you would have to project, and they would have to keep walking back further and further and let you know if they could stop hearing you at any point.
Hmm.
Uh, so it can be a challenge for sure. I don't have a problem projecting my voice, but there are times where maybe I work on projecting it even more or more full time because like you do kind of seek out those like quieter moments like to give a little
Mm-hmm.
bit more nuance where it's like my voice drops in a certain way, which all those things can be perfectly portrayed on screen. You have to be much more bigger and a little less a little less realistic in theater. And that's not to say that the acting is unbelievable in theater, but it's kind of that suspension of disbelief where yes, someone would be projecting or using their body in this way in theater, where if you saw it on screen, it would look a bit silly.
Mm.
and you have
Yeah,
to, yeah, you have to be seen, you have to be heard, you have your facial expressions need to be bigger. Like everything needs to be bigger when you're
yeah,
on
everything's
stage.
exaggerated, right? And
Hmm.
I think that, do you think that also kind of carries over into why you see so many like stage play or theater, Broadway adaptations to film like not work? You know what I mean? Like Cats, for example. That movie came
Oh
out
God, cats.
a few years
Yeah.
ago, and it's like I think that works better as a stage production, or unless they
That
could do
does
it
work better as a
differently,
stage
you
musical,
know?
especially since you got that kind of, the CG was weird as heck in that movie.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and the thing is
It
with the
was a choice
show,
for sure.
everyone, yeah, because in the show everyone's got their makeup, and that
Hmm.
kind of makeup works well for the stage when you're, even if you're watching like the filmed version of the stage production from the 90s, you still know it's on a stage, and seeing that makeup that way makes sense, but it would maybe look a little bit weird for a movie, but it would still would have been a heck of a lot better than what they were doing to people's faces and
Yeah, I think
half
it's the
finished
I
too.
think it's the uncanny valley of it, right? Like, is right,
Hmm.
because right, it's like I mentioned this earlier. You have I consider theater the fourth dimension of entertainment, and what I mean in that is because like the way that I visualize it is like your mind can like disassociate from like a stage play in a way that's like, maybe disassociate's not the word, but it like your
Suspension of
brain's like,
disbelief.
I know I'm watching a stage play, so I know like the the visual effects aren't gonna be great. I know that like the costumes probably are good, but they're not gonna be like movie. You can have that. Yes, your mind can be like, okay, I get this. Whereas movies, when you're translating the
It's
musicals,
right in front of your face. Yeah.
yeah, like it's right there. There's so much happening, there's so much more they can do, with like the material and stuff like that. And especially with Cats, specifically, it is the uncanny valley of the visual effects of how they did the cats, like, like, I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
Like, it was just such
Well,
a weird film.
yeah. Yeah. I think to answer your question about if I think that's why so many Broadway to film adaptations don't work, and I would say no. I do think that can play a part in it, like you said with Cats. Like Cats just
Hmm.
fundamentally is more of a stage show. Maybe it could be a cartoon movie, but it's just not really working with live action, at least in any way that we saw attempted in the 2019 version. But I think a big reason why certain stage to screen adaptations don't work is kind of a fundamental misunderstanding of why the source material worked, or um, how to take that material and move it over to the screen. Because it
Right.
can be done. Like there was the age of like golden age of Hollywood was very much movie musicals, and they kind of petered out through the 60s and the 70s, and any ones you did see were more like counterculture, like Rocky Horror and all that. And they've come back around. Um, and one back in the day, screen acting was a little bit closer to stage acting, but even then, they had to make modifications. And you have to understand what medium you're working with. In order to
Hmm.
make those modifications, you need to have a double understanding. You need to understand the medium you're working with, and you need to understand the source itself. Because, like, you get stuff like Dear Evan Hansen, where it's like the way it's portrayed onto screen, one like somebody who was,
It's so weird.
yeah,
That guy that they got to play him is like 30. Like, he doesn't
yeah,
look like a teenager.
yeah,
And it's also
and it's
just
like,
really weird how he handles like the sister, and I don't know, it's just
yeah,
bizarre.
yeah. I mean, there's things to not
Ben
like
Platt.
about the show in general. It's just, nah, not a. it's a bit of a weird story that got a lot of praise. But at the same time, it's like when you translate it to screen, you can't have everyone else being more subtle and doing like movie acting with it, and then one person who's just like contorting their face like in extreme ways while they're singing, and then but at the same time you still have to keep it interesting. Like the
Right.
interesting ways to stage songs are not sitting on a bed, sitting on a chair, sitting on a swing, like and that's what they did. And it's like you can do something that it's not theater, but you can still make it interesting in movies, because like that same year we got Spielberg's West Side Story, and that was a
Yeah.
great way to like
Which
translate
I
it.
yeah, and was it also the same year? Was it the next year we got In the Heights?
In the Heights was the same year, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like it like I'm not a huge musical person, but like I do like enjoy them. I like it's kind of like with horror. I will watch them, but I'm not like die hard about them.
Yeah,
You
it
know.
might be certain ones that you like more
Yeah,
than others.
like I hate Hamilton. Like I
Oh, you don't like Hamilton?
no, and I think what it is I think I mentioned this in one of my trailer reaction videos. Maybe it was the Lion King one, but I think it's just Lin Manuel Miranda. Like I don't like his style of songs, like that
That's
weird
fair.
type, like the especially in Hamilton, like that weird like rap talk thing that he did. Like I don't know what it is. I just don't resonate with it, and
Mhm. It's not a style
ex-
for everyone.
except for Encanto, because he did the music for Encanto, but a lot of that
Mhm.
music I also just don't think is very good. But people like praise that movie, which I mean it's a good movie. Don't get me wrong, but it's like
Mhm.
most of that music is not good, and I want people to realize that. like it, and again, I don't know if it's just I don't like the guy, but it's another one where I just don't like his style of music. But we are getting. I forgot about this until like a week ago. We are getting another adaptation later this year, Wicked. So how
Yes, we are.
do you feel about that? Because I've
Um,
never seen the Wicked show. I know it's like a prequel to the Wizard of Oz or whatever.
yeah.
But like I've heard the Defying Gravity song, or not Defying Gravity. What is it called? Is it called? Hold on. What is it called? The main song of that film, or
Um,
that
People, I mean, Defying Gravity is a big one. It closes out Act One.
I think that's what it is.
Mhm.
Yeah. But yeah, Defying Gravity. Yeah, that song.
I'm,
Yes,
well, personally,
like I know
yeah,
that
personally, I'm
song.
looking forward. Yeah,
Yeah.
personally, I'm looking forward to it because from what I've seen, it looks like the kind of idea of like Wicked is set in a fantasy world, and how do you take what you could do on stage and put it on screen? Well, you can do so much more on screen with it. Because like Wizard of Oz, huge movie. They were able to really bring a fantasy world to life at a time where before the Wizard of Oz came out, they thought they could. Hollywood thought that they could not do a live action fantasy movie. They're like, this might just not be something you can do with real people, because
Right.
earlier, yeah, a few years earlier, um, a live action version um, of that was a big production too. It was like it looked like it was pretty costly. Was made of Alice in Wonderland, and it kind of flopped because it was like trying to translate certain things like that into a live action medium. It just comes across weird. It doesn't look right.
Are
It
you talking
just might be
about
something we can never do.
are you talking about the recent ones, or was there an old one?
No, because I said before the Wizard of Oz.
Huh. I didn't know there
There was
was.
like a 1933 or
Oh
34.
yes, it's 1930. As soon as you said, "Oh, it was 1933," I saw it. Oh, okay. Now I see what you're talking about. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, because if you get things,
They did the Queen of Hearts dirty.
it's been a while since I've taken a look at that. Let me.
Yeah, that's
Um,
crazy. And I know they're like, but this is a little off topic, but I think it's the same thing with animation, right? Like
Mhm.
when you have something live action and then they're like, oh, we're gonna do an animated show on this property, you're like, I'm
Mhm.
always like, dope, because with animation, it's a different medium. You can do a lot more with the characters that the live action characters can't do. You know, and
Yeah.
it's just like you said, like you have to figure out like you're working, what medium are you working in, and yeah, wow, that's a crazy. It's like that Narnia. You know, do you remember the Narnia
Yeah, like
um,
the
film from
the
like the
one from
UK?
yeah, the BBC one.
Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause there was no CGI that you could do back in like the late 80s, so it was like we're gonna do big puppets of Aslan.
dude, I love how the beavers are just people. Like they're just regular people. I love it. I watched this in like fifth grade. I remember.
Yeah.
So wild, so wild.
I was-
But okay, well, I think to close out, I would love to. I would love to bring you back on a different episode where we can dive deeper into like theater to film adaptations, because I think that'd be very interesting. Because I just did a video game adaptation. That was the last episode. Was the video game one, and I think
Yeah,
doing a theater to film adaptation talk would be really interesting. I would have to do more research though,
definitely.
because I would have to see like all the different ones that have been made and probably watch a couple of them just to, so I'm able to talk about them. But before we close out, I want to ask if there was something. What is like your dream? What is like your dream project? I get not
Oh
like
boy.
to act in, or like if you had, because I know you've done. You mentioned earlier, but we didn't talk about it. You did a lot of stage productions of Rocky Horror. Like if
Mhm.
they, and I know they just did like a Rocky Horror remake a few years ago, but like what is your dream project that you're like, I this is what I want to act in no matter what, even if I'm an extra, like what is
Mm,
it? Or if you could be
gosh,
the lead, or if you could be the lead in one.
that's so hard because there's a few things that I'm like, oh, that's an opportunity that I'd want. That's an opportunity that I'd want.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sci-fi or like fantasy type thing. It was like, or I
Yeah,
got to do
yeah,
here.
kind of like yeah, like if they did, I'm trying to think. Like if they did, so
I'd
let's
want
say
it to
that
be
the
funny too.
yeah, so let's say like Westworld, the TV show didn't exist, and they just announced that, hey, we're gonna be doing an adaptation of Westworld,
Yeah.
or like, or maybe if they're doing, because I know you like this too, like if they're like, hey, we are remaking Little Shop of Horrors, you know, like
Mhm.
something like that. Because like for me, I would want to be in a Marvel or Star Wars project, obviously.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
the thing is, I would love to be in a musical film. That being said, I need to be able to sing, so that's
I was
like
gonna
best
ask
case
that.
scenario.
I was like, not to be like, oh my, not to be rude, but I don't remember. I'm like, wait, can she sing?
Eh, eh, not
Yeah,
greatly, but I it depends. I need to take some lessons. But
yeah. Once you find
if
your
I could sing,
voice, you can really, yeah.
yeah. Um,
So it would be probably a musical. What if it was like, I'm trying to think of like a project that
like a
we've talked
period
about.
piece musical.
Yeah, I know you're
If they
big
did,
vintage. You're a big vintage person.
yeah.
Um, yeah, like a period
Um,
piece. Like if they did like ooh, for me it would probably be if they did like an alternate history, like fantasy steampunk, like Victoria era
oh my God,
London
I love that.
setting.
I love that.
I think that'd be like, oh, how you doing there, mate? You know, we can go down
Yeah.
to Whitechapel. You know, find Jack the Ripper. You know, or whatever.
Okay, then I'm going with that answer too. It doesn't even have to be a musical, like a steampunk Victorian age type
Yeah, something like
sci-fi fusion.
I
I want to be in
like
that.
like something like Shadow and Bone, right? Like
Mm,
that aesthetic,
mm,
you know, where it
yeah.
feels old, but it's also like weirdly futuristic. I don't know how to explain it. Cool. I guess another final thing too. We didn't really talk about it. I just popped into my head when I did my terrible British accent. How do you feel about accents? I know we've. I remember. I think you were in a play, and I think you had to do a British accent maybe.
Mhm.
And I think I
Yeah.
would run. I think it was when we hung out all the time, and like I would run lines with you,
Yeah,
and we
because I
would
was the
do like
understudy in Pride and Prejudice. I was, for those who know Pride and Prejudice,
that's what it was. Yeah.
I was the understudy. It was a main stage production at my college's theater.
Right.
And it's the closest I ever came to doing a main stage production was the one time I got cast as an understudy. I was
I think I
cast.
remember you being like, I just hope something like happens to this person.
No, I didn't want anything bad to happen, but I was just like, well, maybe I could go on at some point. Like, if
Yeah.
they're just like, I just want to go.
I
I
just
don't know. I
remember
just want
I just remember you going Lydia, Lydia,
to. Did you?
Lydia, Lydia.
Did you?
Uh
um,
brings
yeah, I was the
funny.
understudy for both Jane and Charlotte. For anyone who
Mm,
knows Pride and Prejudice,
yeah,
which
I
is
don't.
funny because one character they constantly talk about how she is the prettiest one, and then like Charlotte, there's mention multiple times of her being so plain, and I was the understudy for both, and
Hmm.
I just thought that was funny.
Yeah,
But
that is interesting. You're like they're like, well, we'll put her the understudy as like the prettiest girl and also like the okayest looking girl. That's wild. That casting director, crazy.
yeah,
If
I
if they're
appreciated that she asked me though.
yeah, how do you feel? What do you think is the last question? I promise. What is the
I,
one? What is the one accent you wish you could master? That you could speak flawlessly. Yeah, it's a hard one, huh? I mean,
it's a hard one.
I mean, we're English speakers. Like English is our first language, so naturally we're like, oh, Australian, Irish, British, Scottish. Like that is
Yeah,
kind of our. That's the four we get to choose from.
work on the French a bit.
Yeah, just like, oh, monsieur, monsieur, madame,
Yeah.
c'est magnifique. That I mean, I feel like I would go for hmm. Like my go-to would probably be Australian, because I feel like I mean, because Australian British is just like Australians. They just elongate their vowels more, and British is more
Yeah, where it's
tight on
like
their
British
vowels.
would be out in the car, where Australia would be car.
Car. They're like, oh mate, we're going down to the barbie, going to the car. Yeah, they really like. I'm sorry, my Australian viewers, all one of you. Um, it's just like, yeah, I mean, because like also language too. Like, would you take up a role? Because you see this all the time with. Most recently, there was the Star Wars show, The Alkalite. One of the main characters in that show, he's Korean, and he learned English for that show. Do you think there would be a show or a project where you had to learn a different language? Do you think you could do it?
I could certainly try.
I mean, because it's like
There
you're only learning those lines, right? You're not,
those lines.
but
I could do that. Yeah, if I was
just
trying to feel like I just now know that language, absolutely, I could not do it. But I had a hard enough time once I got up to my second year in Spanish trying to keep up. But
yeah, that's fair.
I learning those lines, yeah, easy. I could do that.
Yeah, I think it
Easy.
depend. I think it would depend on the language, really,
Yeah.
for sure.
I think if it was something that was
Like, I don't think I
like
could
a
do like
Greek alphabet
Russian.
based language,
Yeah,
uh,
Greek or
as
Latin
opposed,
based. Yeah, like if it
yeah,
was
as opposed
Cyrillic,
to,
there's no way I could do like Russian.
yeah.
You know?
And like trying to speak Chinese is really hard because
Yeah,
so much of it is an
Mandarin,
inflection.
Japanese, Korean. Yeah, there's so much that I couldn't do it. Okay, well, I think that was a pretty good episode. We kind of talked a
Yeah,
lot about different things, but we mainly
yeah.
focus on the acting side of it. So, where can people find you?
You can find me on my channel, which is Madam Arm.
Yeah, the link will be
Um,
in description. Yeah.
yeah. That's kind of
Cause
the main thing.
yeah, cause
Got me on right.
you're not really on social media.
Yeah, I mean, I have my Instagram that I go on, but I'm
Yeah, but
not.
it's not like tied to your YouTube account
It's
or
not
anything.
tied. I should
Yeah.
probably make an account that's tied. I have an X account, an X account. I want to call it Twitter. That
Call it Twitter. Who cares? Screw them. I'm
I have.
surprised. I do remember you having your Twitter account. I remember. I got rid of my
Yeah,
Twitter years ago, way before
yeah,
Elon tore it up.
yeah. I got
Yeah.
rid of my old account that you used to see me on. That was kind of more tied to me personally. I made a
Hmm.
different one just to follow a couple people because they were like, "No, we don't want you to leave." And then I don't really go on that one, and I have a second one where I'm just kind of like I look to scroll, but it's supposed to be completely
Yeah,
not tied to me whatsoever.
it's your private, not well, not private, but it's like your like ghost account where you're just a lurker. Your lurk account. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, basically.
Cool.
I should maybe make some stuff to get promotions out more, try and promote my channel a bit more, but really, it's that and
It's just YouTube, right?
yeah, it's just YouTube.
Yeah.
I should try to do a little bit more, but for now, Madam Arm on YouTube. I'm at about 200 subscribers. I'm gonna try and do my some streaming today. I don't know how grand it'll be for a 200 subscriber thing because it was kind of a little last minute that I said I was gonna do it. But coming up in like maybe a week or so, I'll be doing kind of a cooler live stream that'll be continuation of the 200 thing.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I was there for your 100 subscriber special. You did. I think you did
Yeah,
2 streams. Yeah.
I did three. Yeah,
Oh yeah, you did 3. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
We
I needed to
watched
finish
bad
that bottle of
movies.
wine. Yeah.
You haven't finished that bottle of wine?
No, I finished it. I just needed to at that time. I stretched it out for
Oh,
those.
got you, got you,
Yeah.
got you. Okay, well, I thank you for joining me. We'll definitely have you on
Yeah, man.
again. Talking about different things. I
Yeah.
think well, we can plan that later off screen. But yeah. Well, anyways, that'll be it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, like and subscribe if you enjoy this type of content. Go check out Amanda's page. She has she's what you did Fallout. You've done Westworld, just season
Westworld,
one,
12
right?
months.
12
Yeah.
Monkeys, and you've done a couple of films as well. Cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, but that'll be it. So I guess we'll just kind of end it. Just kind of move on. So see you guys in the next one.